Hello, everybody, and welcome to Capsule Cast. As recently there's been lots of other hosts, and I'm happy to be back. I'm DoorGuard, bringing you week 6 with my co-host Donut,
Hello, everyone. How's it going?
and we have our special guest this week, the coach of the Cold Kingdom, Spoofy.
Hello, hello. It's nice to be here again.
Yeah, it's had a pretty exciting week. Both of you guys had some pretty impressive stuff happen. You ready to get into the deets?
Let's do it.
Yup.
So, first match of the week, we had Derp against Cold Kingdom, and yeah, Spoofy, you threw this one around quite heavily. A lot of people were voting on Derp, 76 to 24, in terms of percentages, and it was a pretty decent match overall. But you just had your boy King Cold popping off again, coming out doing his massive damage. 100% Frieza doing what he does, Cooler doing a little bit, and of course Mecha coming in with the rest in peace stats for the most part. Derp had some good moments as well, Hercule popping off, but everybody for the most part got shut down. I think Dodoria was accidentally on the wrong AI. I think they copied Salsa's AI onto him on accident, so he messed up a little bit. So unfortunate for him, but the rest of the team were unable to keep up. So not too bad of a match overall, but yeah, Derp had a couple struggles mixed in with King Cold just doing what he does. It was just a hard time. So what do you have to say about your match here, Spoofy? Anything surprising you, or is this kind of the expectation?
Going into it, I was afraid because in testing, Fiora, the captain of Derp, did do a practice test against us in the off season with the boost and all that, and we did not do well at all. We got curb stomped in that test, so I was a little worried. But if I'm being honest, going in, I didn't. It's not that I didn't care about this divisional, but it was, in a sense, the least important to me at this time in the season, because right now, how I've always looked at divisionals is, I I want to make sure I make it to playoffs. If I can get the bye week, that's a luxury type of thing. But I don't need it. I'm fine without the bye week. So going into it, originally in our first draft of the lineup, we actually had another boost on a different character, but we ended up deciding to just be a little more liberal with our Zenny and not use too much, because I'd rather spend that Zenny towards our future divisionals against Muscle and Sentai, who we are more likely right now to be fighting to stay in playoffs, versus Derp, who I think they've been doing a wonderful job. I would not be surprised whatsoever if they are the top of South Kai. So going into it would be nice to win. It would, but I'm not gonna use all of our Zenny to beat Derp when at the end of the day, there I'm more concerned with making sure I'm actually in playoffs instead of getting the bye week.
Yeah,
But yeah,
yeah, just
overall though, I'm very happy with how my team performed. I did not expect King Colt to go that hard against Derp. I thought he'd probably go 40, 50k ideally, but he did a lot more than I thought he would. Unfortunately, it was against the Doria, which, as you said, was on the wrong AI. But I don't know how much that would have changed things. I feel like, just in hindsight, looking at how our team stacked up, I feel good about my team still being able to take the win, even if Doria was on the right AI. But that's just like the hard thing about it. We don't know, and it's understandably frustrating for Dur.
yeah, I'd say with just how well a lot of your guys did, I wouldn't. You probably had the win even if Todori was on the right AI, because let's say he did like his normal 45k. It really just meant Mecha Frieza might have had higher stats. That's about it. I don't know if there would have been too much changes. Yeah, I forgot about how the boosts were used. You guys had Latent and Indignation for 5 Zenny spent, where they spent like 10 Zenny on a Key +1, a Super +1, and they even threw an Exquisite skill on Supreme Kai to try to counteract the fact that a lot of your guys just naturally have stun B1s, and he is a stun B1, so to kind of do that, which I thought was a cool idea, but obviously did not quite pay out. Supreme Kai actually did the worst, which is very surprising, but I think it went over. As you said, it might not have changed too much if Dodoria was on the right build. He probably would have gotten more ults off, and that's about it. So Donut, what do you think about the match? Obviously, first match of the week and divisional, a lot happened in it.
Yeah, definitely. It was a good match overall, right? It was kind of shocking in how it played out. I thought it would be a lot closer, especially with the Vegeta versus King Cold. I thought Vegeta would win that, just based upon past performances and how I view the character just by itself. And for King Cold to really just pop off, have his day, right? And those 6/7 on the B2s, it's really just super explosive waves and full power death beam, etc., right? Just take them to town was really impressive to see. And obviously with Cold Kingdom, you have the 3 ults coming in. The characters that are there, we kind of know them for the ults: Cooler, 100% Frieza. You know, we kind of just that's what you first think of, at least what I first think of for it. So to hold up to that expectation for me at least. Um, in regards to Dup, I also had the unfortunate event with the Piccolo AI on the Doya. Not much you can do about it after the fact. You just have brush it off and move on. Have that in the back of your head. With a grain of salt. We know he can do better. We've seen him do better. He'll be fine. For Supreme Kai, not sure to tell you that, buddy. He has had a rough day. He got 2 clashes off and won them both, which is really nice, right? But this didn't really pay off too much. And Hercule, obviously 5/6 on B2s, really trying to carry the team as per expected for what we've known Dub for the past 2 seasons here. So I don't think there's really too much cosmic concern for either one. I think both teams, especially with the win for Cold Kingdom, a fine spot for playoffs, right? At least for the Kai. And this really only would affect where you go into the playoffs. I don't think it will impact if you get in there. You have a lot going for you if you look at both these teams. So I want freak out too much if you go up. Obviously, congratulations to Cold.
Yeah, I did have a question here. I know Base Broly was a character you guys struggled to feel got into a consistent spot for your free agent. And you didn't bring Zarbon in. Do you think was Zarbon just something you were worried about wouldn't have a very good matchup in this match, or was you just not sure if he's been performing well lately?
In regards to Brawly, in testing, he was a pretty good character, but when it came to the preseason, he was just not performing to the standard whatsoever. And while that is very unfortunate, we spent most of our Zenny on him, or at least a lot of Zenny on him. So it is unfortunate that we haven't used him yet, but I would still rather waste that Zenny and have a very, in my opinion, solid fundamental team structure. I feel like a lot of teams would really want that, and I feel like we are maybe not necessarily there all the way, but I feel like we have something really good going on. And Monster Zarbon was benched because, one, we were at Derp's home map, which was outer space, that completely nullifies his grabs, which is a decently big factor for Zarbon. If you remember in Cold versus Kaiju, Zarbon's grabs were the main reason why he was able to just plow through Roshi. So without those grabs, it's not the worst thing in the world. Like, it's not like with a Raccoon where I feel like Raccoon would just fall apart. Zarbon still has plenty other things that go for him that his AI actually works towards. But overall, Zarbon with his grabs and then the general matchup he'd have against the rest of Derp, I think it was a very justifiable choice to bench him. Not because we think he's mediocre or terrible, but because at the end of the day, we have to take into consideration how the map would affect him in his general matchups. Though something for Derp that I was shocked by was them benching Salza. Now, if I remember correctly, Fiora on Discord, the coach of Derp, gave reasons for why they benched Salza. I don't remember the specifics, but I do think it was about them not being confident in Salza's matchups against my team. So that could be wrong. I don't remember the exact reason. So if you're on Derp, feel free to correct me. But with that line of thought, I don't actually agree. I feel like, one, Salza right now after week 6 is your highest performing character stat wise. So even if his matchup wasn't the best against my team, I would still depend on him to perform at a 40k level much more than I would Dodoria. And of course, I do have hindsight versus they didn't at the time, but I just feel like Salsa versus each member of my team, I can see him going 40k against. I can see him more often than not, or maybe 50-50, taking on each member of Team Cold. While with Dodoria, I don't think that. I feel like a fair bit of my team has a winning matchup against her, which, again, I have hindsight and she was on the wrong AI, but even if she was on the right one, I feel like Salsa would have been such a more reliable and solid pick to have on the team.
Now to be fair, they did bench Dodoria against androids in week 5, so Dodoria had to be in this week. They have a choice.
Oh, okay, that's fair. I was just very surprised going in that Salsa was benched, because Salsa and Hercule were the main people I was afraid of. I thought those two were the ones where I knew that they would give my team a hard time. So it was just a little shocking that Salsa, such a high-performing character, was benched. Now, with that said, I do want to take a moment to just say good job to Fiora and the rest of Derp, because they've done a great job with elevating this team. Because even though they lost this week, they are still at the top of the division. They could still become the all-star captain. They've done a great job with Hercule, Salsa, Supreme Kai, Creed, Dora, their FA. They've done a great job, and I would not be surprised if they continue to lead our division even though they lost this week.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think it just comes down to the other divisionals. Obviously, if this is the only divisional they lose, then who cares, you know?
Yeah, it's whatever. Okay, so.
Well, with that, shall we get on to the second match of the week?
Let's do it.
Yep.
All right, so our next match, we have GT versus Androids, and honestly, there's not much to say about this match. Android 16, for the first time this season, decided to do more than 20,000, and he did 134,970, which is, he basically did the damage of an entire team on his own. So, yeah, I mean, Super Saiyan 4 Vegeta did 3,000, then he went through Pan, then Shenron, before finally going down to Pycon, who did a number on 19, and 17 had to come in to save the day. But, you know, honestly, not too bad. GT certainly have some stuff going for him, but it's just when you get that attack plus starter, as we saw in the first match with poor old, what's his name? Poor old King Cold just popping off. You know, your attack plus users sometimes just take over the whole match, and that's really about all that happened in this match. Do you have anything to add, Spoofy? It's really just I hope GT comes back from this.
Yeah, honestly, I'm not surprised in the fact that Pan had a hard time against 16. Just looking at them, I'm not surprised that Pan would easily get overwhelmed. But SSJ4 Vegeta and Sin Shinron, I am thoroughly shocked that they struggle to such a high degree. Especially with Vegeta, I feel like Vegeta is a fairly competent fighter. I don't know what his stats are right now or what they were before, but I did not think he would struggle that much against 16. I thought they would do relatively evenish against each other, but then 16 came in and said, no, I'm here to perform. I'm here to show Donut that I do not belong on the FA bench. I belong on the team. And honestly, while it is unfortunate for GT, this is a great sign for Androids because they have had a rockier start to the season than I'm sure anyone expected. In regards to PyCon, the only really good performance GT had this week, it was good. I'm sure they hoped that PyCon could do that reverse elite, but this match was just very shocking because I feel like GT has some solid units on their team. They had base GT Goku bench, which is one of their weaker members. Pan has her moments of being really good. Sin Shinron has shown to be an excellent tank. SSJ4 Vegeta is alright, an average-ish character. And then Pycon is that kind of wild card, where he could go near elite if he just gets his thing together.
So I do want to add that GT did a lot of experimental stuff this week. Shin, for the first time, was not on his EL build, and Super Saiyan 4 Vegeta took it. And normally Super Saiyan 4 Vegeta has like launches and stuff like that. So they did go a little more out, and PyCon's had a different blue Potara like every week. So there's just a lot of experimentation still going on with them. I think they were trying to get Super Saiyan 4 Vegeta to do better, and obviously it didn't quite happen that way. So as we saw, the builds got posted for week 7. They went back to Eternal Life on Shin. But in terms of that week, this was the first time we've seen a different build on Shin that didn't have like Defense plus 3 and Eternal Life. So to be fair to them, the characters could have just been functioning different because of different Pataras, and hence struggled immensely.
Very possible. I'll jump in here quick. 16 obviously being the savior this week, for sure. And in the leading moments to the match, I was insanely nervous because in testing, Vegeta testing over and over in testing. 16 doesn't do something, doesn't go even. We're kind of screwed. I don't know what we do. So we had Super 16 and 9, which I don't think have a favorable matchup against majority of their lineup. And 16 obviously came through in the clutch, which was really nice to see after his abysmal performances prior to this week. And no joke, we did entertain the thought of early Piccolo coming in for 16. That was a discussion we had. As wild as that would be, that was one of the talking points. And it was like this, like his last shot type of thing. Like, all right, if you don't do something, you're kind of benched, buddy. But he pulled through, and I'm glad. I think this is his first elite ever, maybe. I don't think I remember him ever going elite, especially to this degree. So I was really happy, obviously. For GT, I wouldn't freak out too much over this. He did have some experimental builds, as mentioned, and hopefully this week goes a little bit better for y'all.
Yeah, I think there's obviously they've got nothing but up to go with right now, and Androids, obviously this was horrible for me, so hopefully they have nothing but down to go for.
Yeah, there's something to think about with 16 now, you know. So hey, I'm still here, buddy.
Yeah. Is there anything you guys want to add, or should we get moving on to the third match?
Rip 19.
Yeah, just rip his stats.
Rip 19. Man.
Nope, I'm good.
Yeah, 19 only did about 250 more damage than Super Saiyan 4 Vegeta, so both at like 3,000. And people correctly predicted Androids to win. So let's move on to match number 3. We have Budokai versus Kaiju. And this one was a tough one, but the predictions were 70% for Kaiju and 29% for Budokai. And if I remember correctly, that is what happened, right? I believe Kaiju took this match.
Yeah, Kaiju did one. Yep,
with relative, it seemed like they were struggling a good bit, but then Master Roshi showed up. But first time we've seen Kid Goku this season, so that was certainly interesting. He did 45,000, so nice job. He's able to come in and do well. They had Yamcha go out, but I think he's coming back. And General Tao, for the first time, struggled really hard. But you got to give it to Kaiju. Obviously, their starter Raditz still looking super strong. Bardock actually surprisingly got smashed, but Roshi did immense at 73,000, almost 74. And obviously, this new scouter we're seeing is still quite scary, dealing almost 60,000 again. So it's kind of weird. I don't think anybody could have predicted, oh, next season Kaiju are going to have Raditz being a terrifying starting character you have to deal with, and Master Roshi and Scouter Vegeta are just going to kill everybody. Like, that is not, I think, anybody's playbook. So, Spoofy, what do you think of this match? Obviously had some big moments on both sides, but Kaiju still with just some crazy like character moments.
Yeah, so this week Master Roshi proved again that regardless of whatever team he's on, he may not be consistently the best character, but he will give a random, sporadic, amazing performances. And what's so crazy about this to me is that he transformed into Muscle Roshi, and he did well. He didn't completely fall off after he transformed, if I remember correctly. He actually did stuff. He was actually continuing his streak of just wrecking through part of Budokai. And I'm going to be honest, while I didn't pay that close attention to Kaiju's late off-season testing and their preseason, I was shocked that King Vegeta was performing to a state where they would prefer having Roshi in, but it's weeks like this where it's probably very validating to Kaiju to have their FA Roshi in over one of their old staples, King Vegeta. So great job to Kaiju. Now on to Budokai. Overall, they did fairly well. Sadly, it's General Tao, their FA, ironically, contrasting Kaiju, who let them down. Everyone else did. Kid Goku did 45k, Nam did 59, Android 18 did 46k, and then there's General Tao, who did only 16k and let the team down in a relatively pretty close match. And I feel like with Kid Goku back in, I feel like Budokai will definitely find their stride again. Because going into this season, they are a fairly different team than they were last season, where they were fairly dominant, or just really good. So with Kid Goku back in, and then Yamcha's also apparently coming back in as well. I don't remember who for, but I think Budokai is gonna very soon find their footing and really show the league why they are still a very strong team.
Yeah, I think both teams have been showing off a lot of prowess, but Budokai obviously struggling a lot more this season, where Kaiju's been doing quite well. So, exciting to see Kaiju doing what they're doing, but as you said, I think Budokai are in the cards to start picking up more than a few wins here. What about you, Donut? Obviously, one of these teams is in the division you're in.
Yeah, and you, right? Um, and obviously it does help our teams that Budokai did suffer a loss this week, but they still showed a lot of prowess with the characters. I was doing the stats for them since I do Budokai's stats for the spreadsheet, and I was like, how did they lose? So what? Because I saw 45, 46, 59. Usually these are numbers that will grant you a win, and obviously General Tao kind of dropped the ball this week. But I think more than that, it was a tag from Kaiju that helped seal the deal with Master Roshi, as well as Kaiju going 6 for 8 on clashes. So they won a vast majority of them, and that adds up. That's 4,000 here, 5,000 there, 3,000 here. That adds up very fast, right? And that was really the big difference maker, I think, in the match itself. And really kind of just held Kid Goku down, losing. He only went 1 for 4 on clashes, Kid did, and General Tao went 0 for 2. So that's damage that's left on the table, right? And that kills you in some of these close matches, like 2-ball matches, right? And I think that was a big decider. Both these teams showed a lot of stuff. Bardock, I don't know what's happening with them, but there's a weird timeline. I'm used to King Vegeta, Nappa, and Bardock going off, and I'd say we have Scouter and Roshi. So I don't know what kind of world we're living in, but that's the world we have now. So, and as Spoofy said, I think Budokai will be able to get back into what we know them to be from last season. Everyone does the 40k type of team, and the thing about those types of teams, that if someone drops the ball, it really hurts, right? You don't have that character who does that 60 to 70k, right? So hopefully they can fix some issues, do some tinkering behind the wheel there, and figure it out for this upcoming divisional they have.
Yeah, I think they have those characters, though. We've seen Nam, Kid Goku, obviously Android 18 is a very strong character. So they have those characters that can pick up the slack. They've just struggled this season, which isn't to say they're doing bad. They're closer to 50k than maybe the 60 and 70 that they were hoping they'd be doing. So
yeah,
it just be that way. Is there anything else you guys would like to add on here on our match number 3?
Nope.
All right, let's just get sliding right into match number 4 then. We have Rugrats versus Hybrids. Honestly, this was a very entertaining match. If you guys are wondering about ones to go back and watch, the first two especially seemed to go by pretty quick, but this one seemed to be a little bit more long and drawn out, and certainly had some surprises, though some unfortunate stuff as well, like Base Trunks not quite pulling out. Ultimate Gohan had his troubles. I think they had him on defense +2 Eternal Life, so a little different. Got totally walled off by Cyberman with his base defense, who just doesn't care, who actually had a great week. I think the craziest part, though, was just it seemed like hybrids were basically in a guaranteed loss. No, predictions were 60% to 40%. People were expecting Rugrats to win, but Teen Gohan just showing why he's such a threat, doing 80k and taking out like Goten with no problem, and even like taking out Aurelie and making it seem like, okay, now it's a struggle. You got, one bar Cyberman and Cell Jr. to finish him off, and Cyberman died pretty quick. So it's like, oh, can Cell Jr. take out the character that can and kills him? This is getting kind of scary. So it was he ended up doing so, but it certainly was like a good brisk scare for a bit there, and Hybrid showing off why they do have that kind of it factor that keeps them in North Kai, though they have a few characters that have been dropping the ball and they're going to need them to pick it up this week. What about you, Spoofy? This is obviously quite an influential match, and Rugrats took a lot from it, decided they need Gotenks back.
Honestly, I don't really know what to say about the match. Just looking at it, both teams, or well, I guess mostly Hybrid, looking at the stats, Hybrids probably did not expect the matchup of Cyberman versus Ultimate Gohan going in the way that it did. Because even when Cyberman is seen as, like, statistically as a good character, when you look at him, you don't expect him to actually such a strong-looking character like Ultimate Gohan. You superficially, on like the surface level, you'd expect Ultimate Gohan to just curb stomp him, but Cyberman came here today to show that he also deserves to be here. He may not be the kit-wise the strongest character around, but he will still beat anyone if he's given the chance. And honestly, I'm really happy for Cyberman. He's an underdog character. No matter how well he does, you'll never really truly expect him to do that well. So seeing him do 60k, always a really fun thing. And it was also really nice to see Teen Gohan just really showing up, because I feel like within the past few seasons we haven't really seen Teen Gohan be anything resembling his old self. And it was just nice seeing him like try to pick up where his team let him down. And then Gotenks is also always fun. Glad it worked out this week. Hope we see him more. But yeah, I don't know why. When I look at this match, I don't have that many thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, it just seemed like it was going to be a pretty easy win for Rugrats, and then just, a near comeback by Teen, and then the match ended. And it's like, oh, okay then. Well, that's cool. Yeah, Donut seeing Teen pop off, though, it's got to be a little scary.
Oh yeah, definitely a little scary. I'm glad I don't have to face them anymore unless we get to the playoffs. So I avoided that bullet there. But definitely, when you have people hitting on all cylinders, if Teen Gohan can continue that performance, it'll be insanely difficult to take them down in these later weeks, right? So do luck to you and Budokai there for the divisionals. And yeah, the match, as Spoofy and Dora have been saying, looked very much in Rugrats' favor there for the vast majority. I think Cyberman won all three clashes against Ultimate Gohan, was able to stifle most of what he wanted to do, and that was kind of not really expected, because yes, he's beaten characters who he shouldn't have before, like Kid Boo's done, King Cold, Broly even, but like you don't expect it still. It's just so weird. Even though he's done it multiple times now, you still don't expect it. And so yeah, hats off to Rugrats for making him such a solid character, and definitely not looking forward to facing that later into the season. And for Teen Gohan, that's really the only big talking point for hybrids, for me at least. There's not much else to say about the others. Maybe an off week, maybe it's just the people they faced up against. They have to go against Kid Chunks and Aurelie, two of the stronger characters in the league, so there it is, right? And for, was it Kid Chunks and Aurelie? No, not Kid Chunks, just Aurelie. Kid Chunks was benched. And for Teen Gohan to barely get the heat throw, like an ult or whatever, I think, at the end, and nearly killed Goten, and then Goten's like, this one little melee combos, alright, we got the win. I was been saying that with the coach of the Red Rats, and he's just a bit sigh of relief just came over, you can just tell. But it was very sketchy down the later half of this match, so definitely one to check out if you want to see see some explosive fireworks from team.
I want to pop in and clarify. I don't know why I said Gotenks was in. He was not. That's a filthy lie. I don't know why I said that, but Gotenks was not in.
It's probably
My
because
bad.
he's in this next week, so
Yeah, he's in next
people are
week.
just
Oh,
super
that's
happy
what
to
I
see him coming back.
Sorry. Yeah. Ignore whatever I said about Gotenks. Yeah. Thank you.
Good match. Very good match overall.
Yeah, unfortunately, Goten struggled. Probably the last character I was expecting to see struggle in Rugrats. I know Hybrids, like, Ultimate is somebody they've been kind of iffy on. Sword Trunks seemed like he was set in his melee, but I also think he went up against Rayleigh and just totally got pinged to death, which is just something that can happen. And
that happens to the best of them.
But yeah, I think overall, both teams still looking quite scary. Going to be interesting to see what changes, and I know they have some big ones coming for this week. Well, should we get moving on to match 5?
Let's do it.
Yep.
What was that? This is Avatar now? Yip, Papa?
Yep.
We just got DMCA'd. Well, thank you guys for checking out the cast this week. No. So, match number 5, we have Sentai Squad up against Team Muscle, and people were heavily in favor of Sentai, but unfortunately Muscle decided that they cannot lose. They are still on their win streak after going down, and Sentai unfortunately still struggling, though 75% to 25 people really wanted Sentai. They didn't even do too bad, like damage-wise, they were only about 8k behind. They really almost had it. It just came down to, like, there was some, due to a attempted tag by their starter Saiya woman before she died, it put the matchups out of whack. It was supposed to be Burr up against Broly, and then Burr just pop off and beat the crap out of Broly. However, instead, we got Adult Gohan up against Broly, and while he did do some big damage with a big ult, I think it ended there. So it was just a very unfortunate. They also, I believe, they boosted Draconic Aura onto Burr so that he could punch through Broly's power body and all that. So it's just one of those. It might have gone a little different had they gotten the matchups that they actually predicted correctly, but it did not. And even when it came down to the end, like, Jace was popping off with his B2s, but funny enough, base Future Trunks just on his Defense Plus 2 series Eternal Life, he just actually outspammed him because Giant Orb is better than Crusher Ball, and I hate that that's the reality we live in, but indeed it is. Though, you know, I got to give it to Muscle. They certainly have been putting on a great show after losing like their first 3 matches in a row. They have really turned it around and started doing well. They actually boosted a lot of power rages. They used like 9 Zenny and really tried to come out, and Sente also used a good 9 Zenny as well, but yeah, it just came down to, as I said, I think if that matchup came out the way they wanted, Burr against Broly, and instead have Adult Gohan come out and Super Plus 2 ult somebody else, might have been a little different, but it did come down to what, like a bar or two, so still very, very good divisional, but Muscle did take it. So yeah, Sir Spoofy, this one was another kind of back and forth with a little bit of a surprising outcome.
Yeah. So just looking at the stats and like just remembering what happened in the match, I'm very surprised that it was Adult Gohan who ended up kind of dragging the team down, because Burr did 45k, Jace did 43, and Saiya Woman did 48. And then there's Adult Gohan, who should be a very high performing character for Sentai, doing 32k. And looking at the negative, yes, that's very bad if your top character is doing that. But if we were to look at the slightly brighter end of things, Sentai almost took down Muscle in spite of that. Their other characters did their job, and that's really what Sentai has been wanting. Just having their core members be solid characters. And hopefully this week is not indicative of Adult Gohan going downhill, because if Burr, Saiya Woman, and Jace are performing at this level more consistently, Sentai can easily make a comeback and really make the rest of South Kai fight for their position in the playoffs. And looking at Muscle, great job to them. They've gone Brawley at least doing his 40k more consistently again. Android 13 is Android 13. Base Future Trunks is base Future Trunks, or Adult Trunks, I mean. But then there's Bojack, and I don't know what to think of Bojack. I feel like Bojack has very few moments of being a good, really like solid character. You look at him and you expect him to be really good. Then if you look at how he's been performing, he hasn't been. He's been very mediocre for Muscle, and I think that's a big thing for why they struggled within the first few weeks of the season. Bojack and Raccoon are characters that should on paper be doing good. They should be at the very least around 40k characters. But looking at Bojack's average damage, he is an average of 32k. And he's just not there when you think he would be. Now, luckily, Muscle's other characters are strong. Adult Trunks, Brawley, and 13, they are very strong characters, so they can hopefully continue to pick up where Bojack and occasionally Raccoon falter. But it's just a little disappointing, I guess, to see these characters who you really want to be good, you know they can be good, that they should be good, just be mediocre for no reason. So hopefully, while Muscle has this win, they can also steadily improve going further in the season by getting Bojack and Raccoon back in shape. Because once they do that, they are a playoff team. They are the playoff team that you have to look out for. Which they are. Not to say that they're not, but they will really be one once they get Bojack and Raccoon back up to par.
Oh, well, the issue with Bojack is that there's one thing they want him to do, and that is ult spam. Which, being a character that has 4 blast stocks, and he has to use 3 of them to go back into max power mode with his B1, which seems to be his more reliable way, it gets quite difficult. So it's just, it's the build they want to do, and it's the one they've had success with, but it is a very, very volatile build, as I think many people who have tried before in the past. I think your work with 100% freeze is one of the ones that's been better, because it's less about being an ult spam and more of just the fact that he has like ping that does 12k. So it's like, just do something.
Yeah.
Just hit. But
yeah, I think Bojack and Raccoon kind of suffer from the same thing, in a sense where their main thing is getting that one, or ideally getting more, but like getting an ult off. But more often than not, they'll do like one ultimate and then do like little tickle damage. They'll do a little like punch here and there, maybe a trap shooter, maybe a grab. But then sadly, sometimes that will just be it. That was my experience with Recruitways last, where he would get an ult or B2 off, and then that would be it. And I feel like Bojack is kind of suffering from that, due to what you said, being his B1 kid not being as great as other characters like Frieza.
yeah, and you mix in with the nerf he received to go green Bojack as well, being 3 cost. It's just, he just has a little harder time, I think, getting this. And he has trap shooter, which means there's a high chance that all of his ki just kind of disappears into maybe 3,000 damage.
Yep.
So, Donut, yeah, how'd you feel about this match? Oh, that's really interesting. So the next match.
Really sad for Sentai. Obviously, congratulations to Muscle for doing what they gotta do, but it felt like another one of those where Sentai almost has it, and then they lose it at the very end then. So they had the lead with, I think it was Burr and Jace at the end against Trunks over there. And they had it, and then Jace was unable to throw a B2 at the end to kind of, clutch it out a little bit, or even an ult, right? With the save that he has. And that could have potentially won the match for them, but you see how the dominoes fall, and it just didn't fall your way that day, right? And So that's very frustrating, I know, for Sentai, very frustrating, but it does give you a lot of optimism going forward, as Poopy said, where all your mainstay characters are doing their job and then some, and then you have the captain coming in next week since he was benched this week. So maybe again you can help everyone in line and find a win against Namek next week, I believe. And for Muscle, of course, everything's going well, and Bojack is such a weird character. I said, it's just he does things, but he also doesn't do things because his stats are kind of like deceiving. I think that's a good word for it, because like you see him do like, oh, he went 5 for 5 on B2s and he had an ult, but like you're like, okay, so that's really nice, but the 5 B2s are all trap shooter for 2,000 damage. It's like, well, that's fine, but not exactly something to write home about. So, but as I said, I think Muscle is in a really fine spot right now. Sentai is really looking forward to that next divisional. It's cold. That'll be the big one. I expect them to go very hard into that match with a lot of Zenny behind it, and that should be a really exciting match to see.
Yeah, I think obviously Sentei's not fully out of it because a lot of
Of course not.
Derp's been kind of struggling with some wins here and there, and if they go on a little win streak, they can certainly get back up, but they need
Exactly.
to win many of their divisionals to have that chance. And I think everybody's hoping to beat Muscle to try to make it as hard for Muscle since, as Boofy said earlier, they are very much a scary team when playoffs hits. They transform in a lot of ways.
They hit a different level when playoff time comes.
So yeah, are we ready to move on to match number 6 then? You guys have anything else to add here?
Not for me. I'm good to go.
I'm good to go too.
All right, so match number 6, we have the Resurrected Warriors up against Namek. And this was a very interesting match, had a lot of turns, but Resurrected Warriors doing what they do best, which is never lose. Coming out with another victory, though Namek put up a pretty decent fight. Seemed like they weren't. I know the votes were 76 to Resurrected, 24% to Namek, and with Tambourine just totally getting slaughtered at the beginning, it seemed like it was just looking like an easy win. But late Piccolo, Nuova, King Piccolo, they all put in a decent shift, but Maju just came out with a nice 80k, and I think early Goku he only had 35k because he didn't have a full character
Yeah,
to
he
go
cleaned
through in
up.
the end.
Yeah,
He just
he
had to
cleaned up.
clean up. So, and even then, I think like he could have done even more if the opportunity was there. So, Namek put up a good fight, but Resurrected Warriors came out, and I think Namek may have even used a boost to try to come up ahead. Yeah, they put on a Draconic Aura on late Piccolo to give him a little bit more stun on his attacks. We're still not quite sure why, because there's no power bodies, but I guess it was if Ader was false courage spamming, or I have no idea.
Maybe.
Basically, it was
That's a
just,
deal.
it adds more stuns to his basic attack, so yeah. But overall, I think it wasn't too bad of a match. Obviously, the terror of late Piccolo, being able to be a comeback machine, and Nuova with his spam certainly are threats that need to be remembered when going up against Namek. So, Spoofy, how'd you feel about this one?
At the start, it was disappointing to see how Majub was just wrecking through Tambourine, who's usually like a solid 40k starter. Tambourine is reliable for Namek for the most part, so just to see him falter against Majub was really disappointing, because that then led Majub to tearing into the next character, and just kind of led to a trickle down effect of Namek just playing catch up throughout the entire match. And I'm well, I mean, it's kind of ironic, I guess, seeing Resurrected Warriors and Namek go against each other midway through the season, because the last season Namek also had a 0-6 or 6-0 win streak at this point as well. So seeing them just contrast each other from last season to this season was also nice. Um, yeah, I mean, it's good for King Piccolo that he showed up. I feel like I haven't really seen King Piccolo really shine as much as we used to in previous seasons. So him doing his 40k, good to see. Um, Nova picking up his like slack because I know Oasis isn't always happy with him. Nice to see Late Piccolo being that Namekian and just doing a 71k performance. Really nice to see. And then there's Resurrected Warriors, where they're just all 40k characters, 40k plus. If one character falters, as of now, you can probably really rely on the rest of the team to be like, we're not gonna lose this week. We're gonna win. You did bad this week. Well, this other character on our team, 10 times better, just to make sure they win. And Resurrected Warriors is a giant threat. And good for them. They definitely had their struggles last season, so it is nice to see them on such a upward thing. I don't know what the word is, but good for you.
Yeah, they've had an
Nice to see-
upward trend for sure. I think
Yeah,
nobody
upward
was
trend.
expecting. I mean, everybody knows Ader is Mr. Consistent. Donut could preach it all day. Obviously, gaining Maju, who is arguably Bujin's best character, though a closer, so his stats didn't look it. And I don't think anybody expected them to turn early Goku into such a monster after he struggled for most of last season. So definitely not like oh, they just got a bunch of power, as much as they kind of figured out that how to build some of their characters very well this season, and they've just all been functioning like. Even like going to base and Vegeta, and he's just been super consistent. Like I know they have Yajirobe that they haven't used, but they had some builds that were going to make him well until they picked up Tapion. So I think no matter what, they would have been having a pretty good season. But I don't think 6-0 was what people were expecting, though. Namek technically did better last year, so we'll see.
Yeah, it'll also be interesting to see how, in the long term of things, how Resurrected Warriors develop, because they're two of their like solid slash really good fighters being Tapion and early Goku. They're not mainstays for the team. Early Goku will return back to Budokai, I believe, and then Tapion will be back to the FA bench. So they're doing amazing right now. But if I looking at the grand scheme of the entire league and its future, I'm very excited to see how Resurrected Warriors go on past this season and into the next one.
Definitely.
Yeah, Donut, what do you have to add to this match? Obviously, both very scary teams that are going to just be immense battles. I can tell you for sure. Resurrected Warriors
Definitely.
was not very pleasant to fight this season.
Oh, well, I'm looking forward to it then, you know. Hopefully, 7 17 and carry my team there. But yeah, Namek obviously put up a great fight. Tambourine had some issues there, but it was against Majub, so there it is. Majub's not the easiest character to go up against. I'm sure we all know this by now, and he had the short end of the stick that day. But I think the decider here was just that, but also early Goku coming in and really just stifling King Piccolo. Just King Piccolo was on a little bit of tear to really try to come back and make this really a match. And then early Goku just went for like 1v2, did like 11,000. He's like, well, that's it. That's too much damage to come back from. When he started Majub in the bat since he tagged out early. And Namek put up a lot of great stats. They went like 8 for 11 on B2s, which is really solid overall, especially with the caliber of B2s that they have on the team with Nuova and like Piccolo, right? But then you look at RW over there, and they went 13 for 16 on B2s, which is an insane number for anyone who doesn't know much of the league. And that's scary when you have characters who are really good, have really good B2s, and they spam those B2s, right? And hit. So, and bouncing off what Spoofy said there, was that Tapion has really been the main focal point for the team. Not so much Vegeta and Majub. Yes, they've been really good, and early Goku as well, and obviously Mr. Take Your Man, Ada. But Tapion has been able to clutch out so many wins for them. Against Dup, he blocked one of the ults that could have clutched it from Dodoya using Hero's Flute. He got the Brave Cannon off against Metacool against Royals. He does so much for the team, and clutching out these very small small differences in these wins there. So they could easily be now 4-2. It's very possible. So what they're doing very well is very interesting how they do post Tapion, right? So I'm I'm curious to see how they go, because we saw as the Namek went very well, had a great start, started faltering down the back half of the season. So is it going to be the same, or are they going to try to beat out what ED did when Earth Defenders had that 14-1 season? So I go for that perfect 15-0.
Yeah, it's gonna be a lot of it's gonna be a lot of if and when, because you never know with this league. A lot of things can change very fast. I mean, Boojins, we went 13-2 and then got out pretty quick in playoffs. So even if you destroy in the main season, playoffs is its own monster. So you got to be ready for everything. Well, is there anything else you guys wanted to add onto match 6 here?
Nope, I'm good.
Not for me.
All right, so match number 7, we have Cinema versus Earth Defenders. Most people were expecting Cinema to win, 59% to 41, though this is one of the closer votes we've had today. And yeah, I don't think anybody expected what happened to happen. Earth Defenders just like kind of dominated for the most part. It was just overall pretty rough time for Cinema here. And you could say it's just, Earth Defenders doing what they do, or Cinema having a bad time. But I think overall both teams are solid, and somebody had to win. So people were expecting Cinema because they looked a lot better. Garlic Jr. was coming back for the first time. Obviously, he's a good character, and Earth Defenders maybe not bringing in Grandpa Go on yet, but they certainly have a very strong cast. And even like I think the start, Jane was doing just fine against Krillin and was going to work on the next character, but at some point just the Gokus decided to do their Goku magic, and both have Super Plus, hit some pretty big B2s. Turles took like almost half his HP off just a full charge Super Kamehameha, and yeah, it just quick turnaround. It's funny how you could say second form Frieza struggled because he did 40,000 this week. He certainly had a massive hill to climb there, though, and just couldn't quite bring it back. But yeah, it was a nice job by Earth Defenders getting this win. A much-needed win, I would add. I think they are in extremely... Obviously, most divisions are extremely competitive, but they've been like in a win-loss, win-loss. So keeping with that of win a week, lose a week, win a week, lose a week. So keeping their record up there. But Cinema also trying to get as many wins as they can, or trying to see if they can get a bye for the second season in a row. What do you think about this match, Spoofy? Obviously, a lot of things could have changed with like one B2 missing on Earth Defenders' sides, but I think it was a pretty good match overall.
Going into the match, wasn't really sure what to expect, because never in my life did I expect Fasha to get FA benched. And from what I remember, Snuffy, the captain of Cinema, mentioned that Fasha, as of late, has just been performing inconsistently and not at the level of other characters on the team more, and that's why they switched Garlic in and her out. And I don't know, ideally it will work out for them, but I feel like Fasha just inherently has such a presence and power with her that even if she was performing inconsistently within the first half or the first section of the season so far, I would have been very hesitant to bench her, because I just see her ceiling as being so high. But then on the other hand, a very high ceiling is great, but what is she actually doing? So hopefully that will work out for them. Sadly, this week, Garlic just didn't bring his 40k A game. Turles just got blown up.
Yeah.
Absolutely blown up. Janemba doing his thing, and then second form Frieza not doing as well as he usually does, but still can't complain. He did his 40k. And I do just want to say that it is really nice seeing second form Frieza be at this level within the league, to where his usual performances are like 50, I think maybe 60k. I would have to check the stats. Second form average damage is 61k. So Cinema has got him doing... I think this is just another example of a character doing much better than they probably would have on a different team. Because I feel like I can say without a doubt that I don't think Cold, with this season, how we set up our team, would have been able to get second form Frieza to consistently be performing at the level that Cinema has. So honestly, great job to them. Very happy to see that they got him working like this. Good job. And then with Earth Defenders, yeah, they did really good. At first, it was a little like, ooh, Krillin, what's going on, buddy? We want more from you. But then the rest of the team really just picked it up. Mid Goku didn't technically do his 40k, but he pretty much did. And then Tien and Base N Goku showed why they are good members for the team. Base N Goku showed, hey, I am a good loan. You should try to get me again next season because I'm a good character. I can bring back these matches for you, and that's exactly what him and Tien did. So, great job, ED. Performed very well. And that's all from me for now.
I will say, Garlic Jr. threw out a lot of B2s, just didn't quite hit with nearly that many. I think Donut will go a little more on that stat side, but just as a caveat that I don't think Garlic did wrong this week, but unfortunately his B2s are not the best. Like Sweep 1's good, but it also has a max range that's not exactly the greatest. So yeah, Donut, take it away.
Sure. So I'll bounce off that Dollar Junior point there. And yeah, he went 2 for 6 on the B2s, which 2 B2s hitting are not bad, but when you miss 4 of them and you like to spam the sweep delay, it's you kind of want those to hit, right? And I think he did a grab or something like that, and he hit one of the Goku's way, and he barely missed the sweep because he was the range was just that much out of it. Maybe like a few pixels out, right? And that's usually how it works with him. It's either it hits and it does great, it does like 9,000 on combo, whatever. If it misses, then it's like, well, alright, cool. And it's kind of live and die by that. And so yeah, it's not that bad. It felt really in Cinema's favor. And I felt like they had it with Janemba and how well he was doing. But then when you tell us he has 17,000 B2, it's like that's you can't have that happen, right? And with any cat, that's really cripple the damage numbers, right? And same thing with End over there doing 2 ulting with 1 adult, right? Doing 18k combo there, very solid. So when you have this big massive amounts of damage that just come in big bursts, it's hard to come back, right? Even if you had that lead got evaporated, and you have Tien in the back, and just I know from experience, it's so hard to get rid of him towards the end of the matches, right? He has that longevity in there with the healing and the defense. So valiant effort from Cinema, obviously, and ED obviously great win. Both teams still in a fine spot in the respective divisions, so I think we'll be able to see them in playoffs. I think both these teams have the caliber of the team, and I'm very curious to see if, or when, depending, if Fasha comes back towards the later half of the season. So I do think, agreeing with Spoofy, that she is such a staple for the team. I think that's like one of the first characters I think of when I think Cinema. So I'm curious to see if they want to bring her back, or how long they stick with Garlic, or if they take out Turles, or what do they do, right? So it'll be very interesting of what happens with that team going forward.
Yeah, I think both teams are going to bounce back. No matter who lost, they're both just good, strong teams. So it'll just be interesting to see what build changes. Both Cinema does a lot of that, whereas ED are very set on kind of the builds they have, just maybe rotating the positions around. So we'll see if that impacts their matches this week. Shall we move on to the final match then?
Do it.
Yep.
All right, so the final match was Royals versus Boojins. Certainly a highly anticipated matchup last season, was also a pretty big time. And this is probably the closest vote we've had this week, with the Royals at 47%, Boojins at 53%, and Boojins just narrowly made a comeback at the end to win it, which is funny when you look at the damage numbers. You'd think that, I mean, it's kind of hard to say, honestly. Both teams had very strange turnouts. Metacooler versus Wuhan was very 50-50, but Majin Vegeta came out and destroyed Gohan Buu. all of a pool, hence the very low damage he did this week, and half a Spopovich before finally going down. And then Baby just totally, like, he did his damage, but totally struggled against Kid Buu. And the tag game between Kid Buu and Spopovich took out Deborah. So it was a very strange one. Definitely, if you saw the match last year, Deborah went elite against Bujins and took every character out of the All-Star event, which is very sad times. But they had two that could have made it. Neither made it because of that. But this year, he was at full health and had to take out a bar of Spopovich and a bar of Kid Buu, and just couldn't quite do it. So struggled a little bit there. But I think Royals still looking like a very scary team. I thought Baby did a lot worse than he did, but he still did 44,000, showing that, like, even in a week where he looked really rough, he actually wasn't doing too bad. It just came down to Deborah just not quite able to get enough off. So obviously also sad time. Apul's first time in the new league in doing 10K. Sad times. I think a lot of people were hoping to see Apul be at least doing average to try to prove his worth, but not too good this week. So yeah, Spoofy, how'd you feel about this match?
Spopovich came in today and said, I am here. I deserve to be on Bujins. Screw Bobbity, screw Apul, and screw Majin Buu. Spopovich is here to stay. He did 47K, and I've never been happier in my life. I've been a Spopovich stan since day one, so I'm very happy with this week. I'm sad about Apul, yeah. Apul's a fun character, but Spopovich, I can ignore a pool if Spopovich is doing this well, and is nearly a 40k character now. He's in the 39k range, but close enough. And then something that is sad to see though from Royals is that Deborah he's showing that he's still inconsistent. Because the last season, you'd think he was really good, but no, he had a lot of ups and downs, which really is just kind of sad. Because Deborah should be at the very least, a 40k character. He has everything a kid could need. He has great B1s, a relatively good charge rate, which does get screwed over by his after image, but we ignore that for now. He has fast melee, great rush blast, great B2s, and then his AI just still struggles. And that's really sad to see, that such a character that should be great is performing at a more mediocre level. Another thing that really ended up hurting Royals this week is Metacooler. Metacooler has been an amazing trade for Royals. He's been doing great in most weeks, but this time he did 26k when he usually at the very least does 40k plus. So that him not performing up to the standard alongside Deborah really just put the nail in the coffin for Royals. And something I just realized is that Baby is not a 40k character. Like, his average damage is not 40k. If you look at the stats, Baby is a 35k character. And now he has been benched twice already. So it's probably not the most representative thing, but when you think of Baby and how he did last season, you expect 45k at the very least. But then he's just not. Now, this week he did do his 44k, as DoorGuard said, but hopefully moving forward, to help compensate for Deborah, or well, now Vidal, since she is now being swapped in these future weeks, hopefully Baby will perform consistently at this 44 to 45k level. Because once they get that in their team with Majin Vegeta, Metacooler, and Slug perform as they usually do, Royals, very scary team. And I would not let this loss affect you too much. Yeah.
Yeah, do you have much to add here, Donut? I know this was obviously two other larger teams that was kind of hard to predict, as the chat found out.
Yeah. I thought it'd be a really good match just by lineups and by what they have going for them, right, this season. And it's very weird to see how the match went. It started with Majin Vegeta just going to town, right? Catching up against Buhan and then taking out Apul, no issue at all, right? And buying from like a B tier here or there, right? And then Spoooofy and Kid Buu really just came in and clutched it, right? I mean, to be honest, that's really the big name of the game. And like Kid Buu went 4 for 5 on B2s and won a Clash, so like, and tagged. So he did everything he wanted, right? Following the ult. And so when you have a stat stuffer like that, you're gonna do very well. And same with Spoofy also doing a tag. So that tag game between the two really helping out a lot, right? Um, as we know from last season with Kaiju, the tag game can be quite um, substantial, right? And how they swing the matches. Um, and for Royals, as Poopy said, no big hospital concern. The Burr, just don't know what to tell you there. Maybe Vidal will come in, do her thing, be the savior we all know she can be. And for Baby, it's interesting because I noticed that they do a sort of build change, right? And this could be because of Patara changes or conflicts with Metacooler, but when Baby was with GT, he had on the defense, and now he's doing a lot of key. So it's like, do you go out to the defense? Do you switch up Metacooler? It's not hard to say because Metacooler did go elite earlier this season, right? But I think it was preseason, maybe. But either way, he did go elite, so you do know that's capable for him. So it's like, do you change something out you know works to help another member out to be more above that 40k consistently, or do you leave it as is and see if you can try to get a better matchup for Baby? And that's the kind of questions you have to ask yourself as a team or as a coach, right? And there's no real correct answer, it's just whatever what's for your team or that week, depending on the matchups. But yeah, so both these teams still in a great spot for why I think they both make playoffs. I think both these teams have the lineup and FAs to push them over the ledge for that. Into that third or second or even first, depending on the division there. So yeah, let's see what they do come to later weeks in the season.
Yeah, I did want to point out, I forgot to mention, it was kind of a 50-50 on how it ended. Kid Buu did a rush B2 and went into a clash with Deborah, who had Power of Rage. So rush B2s have a slight clash boost, so it was like technically in Deborah's favor, but probably by the most minute amount. So it kind of came down to 50-50 of who won that, then got another B2 off, and Kid Buu was the one who did. So it was a very, very close match, especially right at the end. Is there anything else you guys would like to add then on our final match, or shall we get moving on to our final couple sections here?
I'm good to go.
I'm good to go.
All right, so our next section we have is the power rankings, which show the team's total win-loss of the main and preseason. Obviously, Resurrected Warrior still at the top, Sentai still at the bottom. Had some slight mobility around in the middle, but it's been relatively similar so far this season. Is there any notable changes you guys want to bring up?
I don't notice any noticeable changes. I haven't paid too close attention to them, so I can't really say if I'm shocked by anything. But just pretending this is my first time seeing this at all. I feel like every time I've ever seen one of these, Cold Kingdom, my team is always in the middle, and I feel like that's kind of representative of where my team is. I don't know if I'd say we were sixth, but I feel like we've always just been a middle team, so I'm not too surprised by where we ended up, but I am surprised about teams like Androids and Royals, because just looking at their team, I'm like, I'm scared. I feel like there's a lower chance that I'll win against these teams because their lineup on paper is just that good. But so far in the main season, they haven't been performing as well as I feel like they're hoping to. But I do feel like that will change for the better moving forward.
I say for me the biggest surprises would be Hybrids and Budokai both at that 13-14 spot as a divisional this week. Um, and then you have 8-10 for Boots and Androids, also a very close divisional there. And obviously Kaiju, I think Kaiju is a really like standout performer this year. Yes, they've always been a solid team, don't get me wrong, but to be up in the top 4 is really nice to see for them, right? That's top 25% of the league, so props to them for doing it. Get up there, at least for this ranking here.
Yeah, I think one notable is that Muscle was hovering right at the bottom, and they pushed up quite a good bit as well.
Yep.
Obviously, Kaiju being as high as they have, I think last season we had a pseudo kind of bracket there. They were struggling a lot harder, so they are doing quite a lot better this season. Should move on to the next section, which I believe is the tier list.
Yep.
All right. So obviously we have an elite this week with Android 16, a few near elites in Maju, King Cold, Matcha Vegeta, and Teen Gohan. And overall, just slight mobility. Some characters kind of dropped in their averages. A lot jumped up. And ours, there's still some characters very much struggling down at the bottom. Though some of them we have not seen at all. They have been free agent benched and probably won't come out, such as Guldo or Chi-Chi or King Vegeta. So, will be to see. Obviously, Donut, you have a notable reason to talk is 16, but is there anything else you notice or pops out in your eye?
Apart from 16, yeah, obviously the Cyber Tao still being that low is really shocking on the tier list. Because I still have this elite performance from last season fresh in my head, as well as seeing characters like Vegito so low is also very shocking, right? But on the plus side, you have characters like my boy Ada, Mr. Take Your Man, still up there towards the top. Love to see it on that right side there. So that's beautiful. Love to see that.
Is there anything you'd like to add, Spoofy? Is it outside of regret that King Cold could not quite hit the 100k gap there?
I mean, King Cold has always done this little dance since the last offseason, or last season. He'll not often, but like periodically, he will get those 80, maybe 90 if he's feeling good performances. But he's always just in that type of range whenever he has really outstanding performances. So him not getting that lead, disappointing but not surprised. Something I am happy to see though is that Burr is on the tier list, a average to above average character, which is much better than how he was looking last season. These buffs have really shown to just project him upwards. Maybe not top tier character, but a usable one, a reliable one that you should think of and look out for when you're going against Sentai. So really happy for Burr. Happy that Slug is doing well. I've always been a fan of him. I like that he's a green giant and not a ape. I like the little difference between them. So I'm happy Slug is up there. Surprised that Cell is in that same category. When you think of Perfect Cell, you'd think he'd be closer to the top. But he's not. He's above average, yeah, but not top tier in this tier list so far. But that could easily change within 3 to 4 weeks.
Yeah, he could go elite this week. It's possible. So it is Cell.
Yeah, for sure. Shall we start the predictions off then for week number 7?
Yep, let's do this.
So obviously the first match of the week, we have Resurrected Warriors versus Earth Defenders. I think Resurrected just, both teams obviously looking very solid and consistent, but I think Resurrected have a little more variety of characters that can just pop off and carry. So I'm going to give Resurrected the vote.
Yeah, I'll follow that up with a RW win as well. Barely over ED. ED has a lot of weapons, right? As we saw it in cinema last week. But RW I think has a wider array of this level, caliber of characters they can deal with. Ada is really strong, Maju, right? Tapion, right? So there's so many weapons they can utilize.
I feel like Earth Defenders could definitely pull this one out, actually. Just looking at who's benched, Maju is out this week, and Krillin is out this week. And while Resurrected Warriors, at the end of the day, they have a solid foundation either way. just looking at last week, for example, Maju was a main contender for why they beat Namek. Otherwise, the match was pretty close. So with Maju out and Earth Defender's arguably weakest character out as well, I feel like Earth Defenders could definitely knock Resurrected Warriors down and make the rest of the league feel more, I guess, a little more secure with Resurrected Warriors just steaming through other teams so far. So I'm gonna give it to Earth Defenders. Do not make me regret this.
Yeah, but that's
Please.
an issue because like you lose Maju back when they have N Vegeta come in his place. It's like well, oh well, I don't know. Just replacing a strong character with a strong character. So
Yeah, so we got 2-1, but yeah, it'll be interesting. I think both teams have very strong lineups, so it'll be interesting to see who actually pulls out. And to match 2, we have Namek and Sentai. Now I know what the fans or the comments in the YouTube stream will be, and that'll be for Sentai. Obviously, they very much love and want Sentai to get the win. Namek's also looking very strong, though I'll give the vote to Sentai. I think these last few weeks they've been so close, and they certainly are doing some interesting stuff this week, so I'm hyped to see, though Namek does have a very strong squad, so it's always scary to see what they'll pop out with. But I'm going to go with Sentai.
Sentai's benching Burr and Namek is benching Tambourine. So I think favors Namek slightly. So it's hard. I'm gonna go with Namek barely. I think Blake Piccolo will clutch it in the end.
Yeah, if Sentai had Burr in, obviously they can't always have him in. He has to be benched eventually. If they did have him in, though, I'd feel a lot more confident in them, especially when they're being a little more experimental this week with Adult Gohan. Adult Gohan is on a melee build instead of the typical B2, B1 spam build that you would expect from him. So, I'm gonna also have to give it to Namek. Because Tambourine being out is unfortunate. I think Tambourine is a solid 40k character usually, but I feel like Burr matters more to Sentai than Tambourine does to Namek. And with Adult Gohan being a little more experimental, I feel like it's just Namek is the more likely winner here. Hopefully not, but I wouldn't be surprised if Namek pulled it out.
Hey, maybe Ginyu does elite. Maybe that's the play.
And we have not seen Ginyu yet this season, so that'll be
not.
interesting.
It'll be fun to see.
So moving on to match 3, obviously Donut and I have big hands in this one, being our divisional. I'll just leave it at it's gonna come down to how the match starts. So I'll give it to my squad, but obviously it's gonna be a very rough one because you don't know. Divisionals are quite intense.
Yeah, I believe you guys have benched a pool, and I have benched 19 for this match, and I think those are probably
Yeah, so you
ones
guys
that
definitely lost. You don't have your kingpin.
we don't have a goat, unlucky. Yeah, it'll come down to Sitsune versus Buhan and Cell versus Kid Buu. I think those are the two big ones we're looking at, so that'll be fun. I'm no advantage, obviously.
I don't know. I feel like this is probably one of the closest divisionals to look at. You guys are I feel like you guys are relatively very close to each other. And androids don't even have the advantage of being at home. They're at Bujin's home map. And both of you guys have really strong lineups. Each of you probably have a weaker link than the rest that I can look at and be like, these characters could easily be taken advantage of by one of their better characters. From Bujin's Spoooofy, I can easily see being taken advantage of if he gets matched up against Cell. And I could definitely see Super 17, despite his occasional really good performances, be taken advantage of by Kid Buu, or if Buhan somehow gets matched up against him after the starters face off. So I feel like this is a very neck and neck match. But God, this is a tough one to call. I think I want to say Bujin's, but then there's 16 who did so well last week. But in my heart, I feel like it's Bujin's. But androids have, I feel like, spent their Zenny better, or not better per se, but they have more stat boosts, which could have bigger impacts than Boojins. I'm going to give it to
Well, we could have
Android
seen
the boost.
we could
I
have
feel like
seen Spoke versus 19 in the main season, but they decided against it, so I could see why. You just
Yeah.
have to hate on androids. I'll take your vote for Boojins. You said it earlier. Your second vote doesn't count.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a close call, but the Zenny, how Android spent their Zenny on their characters, put them a teensy bit above my faith in Boojins. If the Zenny was spent a little differently, it could easily have gone to Boojins, but my official vote will be for androids.
Well, Donut knows why I put Power Rage on Kid Buu. He saw
Yep.
Kid Buu lose 5 clashes in a row,
Yep.
217, when neither had
In
clashes.
testing, yep. It was so, like, what the hell's going on here? But hey, that Power of H could be really clutch, you know? That could be the decider. It's possible.
It was very difficult, so.
Yeah, that right there shows how much we had to prepare for this match. That what Spoofy just had, his his very indecisive, spiel there. So basically, us in leading up into this build week.
Mm-hmm.
But how do we beat them? I don't know.
Yeah, it's going to be a close one. Might be what decides who gets the bye this season. Well,
yeah.
On to the fourth match, we have Cold versus Cinema. Obviously, this is also going to be a pretty intense one with a lot of potential. Going to be hard to see who wins this. I'm going to give it to Cold, though. I think there's just been a little bit more consistency, and I think Cinema's also still trying some stuff out. Going to be kind of a crazy match. We will get to see the Friezas fight each other potentially, so that'll be fun.
That'll be fun. Yeah, that'll be really fun.
So that'll be something to look forward to. But obviously they have Garlic out because they don't want the risk, and Cooler out for Cold. But I'm going to give it to Cold. I think they've just been looking a little more solid. It's going to be also down to kind of the starters, though. Both have their attack plus Eternal Lifers starting us off.
Yeah, Cold bench Cooler, which is arguably the best.
Yeah, I said that.
And Cinema, they bench Garlic Jr., right? Which is a new guy, so cool. But it's a tough one. I think with Janemba versus King Cold, I think Janemba will take that, but I think Cold brings it back towards the later half with the Frieza Zarbon combo. And it's kind of how I think it's gonna play out. So I'm gonna weak it barely for Cold there, maybe like a bar or two. I'm sure Spoofy's on for Cinema, right?
So obviously I will give it to my own team. I'm praying, I hope that we get a Frieza match, and that would just be fun, regardless of which form does better. These are two forms that, before this season, have never been a starting form at all. So it'll just be fun. It'll be a fun match to see them potentially go against each other. Obviously, the starters will determine the flow of the match. It could, in my opinion, go either way easily. That's how it usually goes with attack plus two attack melee characters going against each other. It's not per se a matter of who's better in this instance. I feel like Janemba and King Cold have been forming at similar-ish levels. It's just a matter who's gonna get the better melee combo off, who's gonna slam ping pong the opponent around first. So that'll be a big influence on the match. But another big factor, I think, will actually be Turles. I feel like if Turles actually does something unlike he did last week, if he doesn't get blown to smithereens, if Turles goes up against Zarbon and transforms, I feel like that could be a definite turning point for the entirety of the match, because Zarbon can't grab an ape. Zarbon has slower melee. He'll have issues against an ape. So I feel like it'll definitely come down to King Cold versus Janemba, Turles, just how Turles does, and then otherwise I feel like each matchup could go either way between Gogeta, Frieza, second form, whoever's closing, Zarbon.
Yep.
It could easily go either way, but I'm very, very excited for it. Cinema, give a good match. Let the Friezas come against each other. Go against each other. Yes. I'm voting for Cold.
Also got a majority for Cold here, though. Both teams are obviously going to be putting up a good fight with a very strong lineups in this week. So on to match number 5, we have GT and Derp. I'm gonna give it to Derp. They have just been looking a lot more solid. Obviously, Salza should be coming back in, I believe. He
Yep.
is in, and yeah, and I think GT has a strong team, but they're still seems like there's just stuff they're trying to figure out, so it's just still a little rough. So gonna give it to Derp.
I think I'll echo that. Dub is benching Supreme Kai and GT's benching Pan, which I think those are fine benches, right? But Dub I think still has a more well-rounded lineup, as well as, I'm not sure how much they're change, how much the changes will impact GT from last week. I know there'll be some more consistent builds that have been more tested, so that could make things a little bit close, a little bit sketchy for Dip. I think Dip will pull it out barely.
I think I'll also give it to Derp. I just have more confidence in who they're bringing in versus GT, because with GT I can find a clear weaker link in base GT Goku. Well, with Derp, it's just like they're all fairly good. Some of them are great even. I don't really see a specific weak link besides maybe Dodoria, but Dodoria is also on her usual layout, so I'm not going to judge her too harshly. So I feel like Derp throughout the lineup has more consistency. They have high damaging characters as well, like GT, so I'll give it to Derp.
Alright, so we have a majority going here for Derp, though I think both teams are obviously going to be throwing out some big firepower here, needing some wins after this last week. Match number 6, we have Kaiju and Rugrats. This one's a hard one. Obviously, we know Gotenks is coming back, but Kaiju's just been on a roll. I think I'm going to give it to Kaiju, actually. I think you really have to kind of come out strong, because like Raditz is a hard one to start with, and everybody on their team has been pulling their weight, while Bardock maybe's been the one that's been weaker. He's also the one that has the highest ceiling, so at any point here, he can easily pop off. So I think I'm going to give it over to the Apes.
This is kind of weird, right? Because you have Raditz versus Cyberman as the starter, and Raditz has that Dragon power over the power of Rage with Cyberman, which does put Raditz in the lead. And you have Bardock match up against Rayleigh, which is really, really spicy of a matchup with both that attack +2, defense -1. And I think I'm leaning towards Rugrats. That's my gut feeling. But if it is, it's not by much. Maybe a bar, less than a bar. It's gonna be really down to the wire, I think. I think Rugrats takes it.
I'm also gonna say Rugrats. I feel like Cyberman's poor matchup against Apes is kind of nullified by being a starter. So while he does have the power of Rage disadvantage against Raditz's Dragon power, I don't feel like it'll be too match deciding. And I feel like if Kid Trunks and Goten fuse relatively early and Kaiju does transform, I think Gotenks will do pretty well. They have really good B2s. I guess if they transform into base Gotenks, they could be in a little trouble because of that rush B2. But I feel confident in Gotenks doing well against Kaiju base or ape form. And then there's also Rayleigh, who I believe has that kind of natural DA against apes. So I'm going to lean towards Rugrats. Not because I like Toshiro. No, I hate Toshiro. No, I don't want Toshiro to win. But if I'm being objective, the team that he happens to be on, I feel like will win.
Some spicy words from Spoofy there.
Yeah.
Who'd you go with again, Donut? You said Rugrats?
Yeah, I went Rugrats, yeah.
Yeah, so majority for Rugrats, though. I think both these teams, obviously Kaiju just having such a good season is going to put it into question, but Rugrats, they've been doing pretty well themselves, so it'll be a fun one to watch at the very least. So moving on to match 7, the second division of the week, we have Hybrids versus Budokai. Obviously both teams making some big attempts here to make the win. However, it seemed like Hybrids are going a little harder in where Budokai, instead of spending Zenny on boosts, are actually just taking Yamcha, who they just put in the free agent bench, off the free agent bench to put Cyborg Tao there. So kind of an interesting move. um, where hybrids are just basically giving like attack +3 sword trunks and attack +2 uh, what's it, attack +2 ultimate
Gohan.
Gohan. So yeah, lot of crazy stuff going on both sides, honestly. So it's gonna be quite crazy to see what happens. Though I think I'm gonna have to give it to hybrids. I think they're trying to come out swinging a little differently than how Budokai's coming out.
Yeah, and if we look at who's benched, well, Hybrids benched out Future Gohan, and Budokai benched out Nam for the weekly bench, as well as Cyber Tao if you want to say that too. Um, and it's weird. I think Hybrid spent his any more efficiently, but I do understand why Budokai did what they did. I think they feel the matchup is better for Yamcha, so they want to do that, and they thought Cyber Tao was better for last week, I guess. So I see kind of the idea behind it. But I think hybrids will take it. I think hybrids will take this one.
This is also kind of a tough one because both teams have kind of been on the struggling end of things. You both see a lot of promise in their team. Their characters have a lot of great moments, but can they bring it all together in one moment? And I'm not sure how I feel about Yamcha, because he wasn't performing that well before either, but neither was Cyber Tao. I just looked at the stats, and Cyber Tao was averaging 21k compared to Yamcha's 32 average. So I don't know with Budokai, because Nam's also out, and I thought Nam was really good, but then I also looked at his stats, and Nam was averaging around 37k. So I don't feel like I feel like I have a better understanding of where Hybrids is, and I feel like Hybrids is their Zenny could more easily impact their match and more blatantly show like a boost, while because they're using their Zenny to buy 2 attack +1s, while Budokai is switching in Yamcha for Cyber Tao and bought a key +1. I feel like because I see hybrids more in that I feel like their boosts are more. I feel like they'll help them more than what Budokai has going on. I'm gonna have to also give it to hybrids.
Also interesting, the Kid Goku, since he has a natural defense -2 because of the child character, the attack +3 sword trunks to do a lot of damage fast. That could rack up super quick. So I'll be interested to see if that comes to fruition.
Yeah, we're gonna have a lot of I actually think technically, Sword Trunks is in a weird spot where Sirius can't give a full boost when he gets low because he's gonna hit max attack plus midway through. But it'll still be interesting. He'll obviously just have a absolute massive amount of attack. So if he gets his combos off, it'll be quite scary. But yeah, we have a 3-0 for hybrids. However, obviously being divisional, Budokai's not in any way out. It's just the opinions we have stated. And for the final match of the week, we have Muscle versus Royals. So this one should be a slobber knocker. Obviously, both squads have been doing well, though Muscle's definitely been on a lot better of a win streak. And the fact that they've been on a win streak and their lineup certainly does seem like it'll be quite scary this week. And Royals, as I said earlier, is doing something interesting. They decided to do a free bench swap as well for 2 Zenny to bring in Videl over to Bora to try to keep things a little more competitive. So we don't know how it's going to fully go because we have a character we haven't seen in a hot minute. But I think I'm going to give it to Muscle. I think obviously they're just coming in with their set squad. A lot of them kind of finally settling at their builds. And obviously they still, did get nerfed to make it harder to transform. Have still been doing just fine. And transforming a fair amount anyways. So I'm going to give the edge to Muscle here.
Look at who they benched. Muscle benched Base Trunks, and Royals benched Metacooler. And those both really strong characters, right? Broly versus Videl sounds bad for Videl, really does. But Majin Vegeta versus Raccoon sounds really bad for Raccoon. So I'm thinking that Royals will take it off the back of Majin Vegeta.
I'm gonna have to give it to Royals. When I look at Muscle's lineup, I see Raccoon and Bojack are both in, I'm pretty sure they've won with both of them in before, so it's not unheard of. But I'm a non-believer. Muscle, I'm so sorry, but I just have struggle finding faith in Bojack and Raccoon thus far this season. And you have adult Trunks out. I feel like adult Trunks is such a key player to keep Muscle functioning when they have Bojack and Raccoon. Because adult Trunks is alongside 13 are the two characters where you're like, yes, they will perform. They will do a really good job. Brawly, from what I remember, has struggled a tiny bit. He's had some uninspiring performances in the main season so far. He's had good ones, but not like amazing ones. So I feel like just overall, even though Royals are bringing in Vidal, I trust what Royals is bringing more than I trust Brawly and Android 13's ability to ensure that regardless of how Bojack and Raccoon do, that Muscle could bring a win. I feel like it's a heavy task, and I feel like Royals has an easier, not easy job, but they have more going for them. So I'm gonna say Royals.
So you got a 2-1 for Royals over Muscle. Um, but there's obviously a lot of factors that can change. Both teams still have some relatively elite members in that could certainly change the entire, way the match goes in a heartbeat.
Mhm.
Whether it be a transformation on Muscle or just a character doing what we know they can do on Royals. So will be very fun. I hope that it ends the week off on a intense note. So with that, is there anything else you guys would like to add before I close out the cast today?
Not for me.
Not for me either.
All right, well, those who have been watching, as always, please remember to like, subscribe, ding that dong to check out all the new content coming out. As always, in the description as well, there is links to the Discord where we record these. You'll get to join teams, talk about everything, can be more involved in the chat, and check out one of the 2 areas we do polls. As well as if you follow the live stream, there are now live polls during those streams to poll on which team you think will win. So come on and join us there. There's a link to the website, which has all the stats and basically all the details. So if you're wanting to get a little more technical in it, it's all there. And a link to the Twitter, which, as always, just keeps updates on events and such. So with that, I thank you guys for checking out the Capsule Cast today. Let's say goodbye.
All right. See ya. Have a donut.
Later.
Have a good one.